Welcome to another episode of the Butler Did It podcast. I am, of course, your host, Adam Butler, back with another episode. And yes, I am blessed to be here. Thank you for joining me. Cool show set up for you guys today. Got a good friend on, but before we get to that, I do want to let my YouTube folks know you can do me a big favor by clicking that bell, subscribing to the show, commenting on the show, and of course, sharing this content. Also, for my podcast folks, you can do what you've been doing. Comment on the show, rate and review the show, share the content. It helps me out a lot. All right, let's jump right into it. Today, my guest is my good friend, Amiyah Deziire. Some of you may know her as one of the former co-hosts of the MSR podcast. Most of you know her as the author of Midnight Confessions. She's launching a new podcast called Black, 30-something, and Pregnant AF. Now, there's more to this pod than the title that's on. This is a journey or the story of a woman who recently went through a miscarriage. Now, on the surface, many of you would think this is a story of tragedy, but for me, it's a story of triumph. And that's why I wanted to talk to Amiyah. I wanted her to come on the show and kind of give a taste of what she's going to be talking about in the podcast, why she decided to do this podcast, and, you know, how her journey has not only affected herself, but just the people around her. She does a great job. I'm not going to waste a lot of time talking about it. Without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, the one and only Amiyah Deziire. Sis.
What's up?
What's up, sis? I know it has literally been a long time. It's probably been well over a year.
Absolutely.
It's been a long time. That's shameful. That actually makes me a little sad because it does show you how like time flies, but I never want to get to the point where I ain't talked to you like a year or two. That's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, life happened for both of us. But I feel like whenever we do talk, we pick up right where we left off, so it's all good.
No doubt, and we start joning, but I'm not going to join on you on air. I'm not going to join on you. I'm not going to join.
You know what? I try to get in the ring. I've been doing a lot better. I don't know if I picked up a little bit of that Baltimore behavior.
Don't you dare. Don't you dare. I'm going to leave it be. I do want to ask you, though. I'm very happy to talk to you. I do want to ask you before we get started, talk about the podcast that you're launching. How you been doing? COVID has been crazy for everybody. How you been holding up over this past almost a year of quarantine?
You know what? I have realized that I've been doing a lot of shopping, right? As a coping mechanism. But I've been in therapy consistently almost for the last 2 years. And so therapy has been a big help. I moved into a new house by the grace of God. I started a new job, right? So I can't really complain. There have been some moments of missing your friends and, wanting to be outside. But then I realized how in home of a person I really am. So I miss my friends. I've been learning to quarantine people. I'm like, yo, you can come over, but you got to come over in 14 days.
Yeah. Yeah.
For the most part, everything else is good.
Everything else is good. Yeah. Good to hear. I like most of our friends. I saw that you put on Instagram that you were launching a podcast, and I was like, Amiyah is launching a podcast, and I was super excited. But then when I saw the content, obviously, and we'll talk about what the podcast is about. I was surprised, and that shows how long we haven't talked, and you had no idea what was really going on. But also extremely proud of you for wanting to not only, because I know we talk about therapy a lot and we'll get into that, but not only use this, what I imagine is like a therapeutic tool, but also as a tool to share your story as a woman, a Black woman, with other Black women that may need to hear this. So I'm going to let you introduce and talk about what your new podcast is about.
All right. Well, it is called Black, 30-something and Pregnant as Fuck. And I like legit was like, am I supposed to say AF or should I say as fuck? Right? Because I'm thinking about my parents, right? And like who's gonna listen to the podcast. I'm like, they'll get over it. And so I found out I was pregnant in October. And then I ended up rephrase. I found out I was pregnant in like end of August. And then I had a miscarriage in October. And piece of me was like, man, like I want to know like who else has kind of gone through this, how people cope with it, what else can we talk about outside of that, like maybe trying again, successfully having a baby again, the impact it has on the men, things of that nature. So that's when I really decided to, like just jump out there and yeah.
Yeah, man. I imagine that it's a tough thing to talk about, and it was, beyond being a tough thing to go through. I don't, and I want to be careful because you are launching a podcast is going to take people through the journey. So I don't want to, you know, blow everything right here, but just talk to me about your emotional state and just, where you were and how you got to the point where you decided I want to not only talk to my friends about this and share this with people, but share this with a larger audience of people that would tune into a podcast.
You know, the thing is that people often think about, like being extremely excited when you get pregnant. But I realized after getting pregnant how much I didn't know, right? Like you think about that because, sex, right? Like, okay, great. But like, what else? And I realized that I had no idea um, what that kind of looks like outside of just the sex part. When it comes to pregnancy, emotionally I was distraught. I'm not even gonna lie to you. I was depressed. I was angry. I was scared, and I'm full blown 36. And so to have those type of thoughts and feelings now was like mind blowing for me. I did share with my closest friends, of course, and my family. My mom is in the medical field, and so uh, she herself was like, "Look, I want to get you safely into the third trimester." Um, that didn't happen, and I went through the motions. But I will say this: I was so filled up with love, right? That it's hard to explain it because I'm pretty sure for other people it's going to be different. But for me, I was like, my cup was overflowing with love. It was a lot, the storm was a lot calmer. It was still a
Mm.
storm, but it was just way, way, way calmer than I expected it to be, different than how I expected to feel going through something like that. Um, and the impact that it would have on me and like, the people around me. And I just thought to myself, I knew of a few friends who have gone through it, but like they say, it's not the club you want to be part of. So it's
Yeah.
hard to like reach out to somebody and say, hey, oh, by the way, I had a miscarriage too. Let's talk about it, right?
Mm.
Versus like creating a space that says, like, I'm just sharing my transparent story of what occurred to me because it's not just having a miscarriage, it's being pregnant after 35, right? Like, literally after 35, they consider you a geriatric pregnancy. Like, that's
Mm.
disrespectful as fuck.
Yeah, I
Like,
never heard that term.
like, come on now, right? So, the idea that I'm going through this is like somewhere else somebody went through it and they might not have had the support that I had, so let me just jump out there being vulnerable and share their story.
Yeah, I remember some years ago, shout out to my friend Sarah. She was telling me about the troubles, the struggles that Black women have through pregnancy, the
Mm-hmm.
high fatality rate that women have during pregnancy. Doctors not listening, doctors not paying attention, doctors not taking the word of Black women seriously enough. I remember how much it scared me. This was probably about 3 or 4 years ago. It scared me to death. This is before I was a married man with a woman that I want to have a child with, you know what I mean, and having to think about these things. How much do you think men can learn from this, right? Because, you know, I imagine there are going to be women that are going to, there's going to be comforting, and we're going to definitely get more into that. There's going to be comforting for women, and women are going to be able to relate and understand, but men don't get pregnant. These are
Mm-hmm.
things we don't understand until we talk to someone like you. How much do you think, and how much does your partner learn and also struggle through this with you?
So one of the biggest things is we're still debating on that. So I have my episodes pretty much lined out, and so for the first 6 episodes about it'll be my journey, like just me alone. Then the last 3 or 4 will be of somebody else who's gone through it, and possibly my partner. I can't um force him, right? I've asked him, but again, men go through this differently. So even though I'm physically going through it, he's emotionally, mentally, spiritually, like he's trying to figure out how to be supportive and still go through his own stuff. And I think that having a specific conversation with him doing it is going to be eye opening for men, but black men in particular, about like what that's like, you get excited at the idea, and even though I had to go through my roller coaster, once we got to that level of excitement and me looking at that third bedroom, like, okay, this is going to be a nursery. Now I'm thinking to myself, whew, we okay, so where do we go from here? He was distant for a little bit, and he will attest to that. But he will, whenever we talk, it's always like, it's not about me, it's about you. And I think that black men in particular need to know that when they are in a relationship where the woman loses a baby, it's not easy, and that they too need to grieve the process.
You know, again, I gotta say, I'm proud of you, sis. Seriously, and I know the audience is like, why are you gonna keep interjecting with that? But because I know you, you know what I mean,
Right.
and yeah, I'm just proud of you. I'm just gonna leave it at that for yourself, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because again, you're doing a very selfless thing, and I think that's why I keep saying I'm proud of you, because it's selfless what you're doing, right? And we've talked about this in the past. We've talked about, like, not this in particular, but we've talked about the power of media, the power of the microphone. How even if you're touching just one person, that means something, and it's like God's work, right?
Right.
But for yourself, this is something you went through. You went through this, right? How did you how did you begin to cope? Did you talk to other women that have gone through the same thing? If so, what did you learn from them?
Actually, I didn't. I was very much not alone, right? Like, not alone, but I went through this process of just being still for a moment. And again, this process is different from for everybody. But for me, so just a little bit of I guess a preface. So the process itself is like 2 weeks, right? And a lot of people don't understand that this thing can last you for like quite some time, physically and obviously emotionally. It'll just, whenever you're ready to say, okay, I'm good, that's on everybody individually. So there was a physical pain, and then there was the emotional side of that. And for me, my best friend, who I've been friends with her since 98, so we've been friends for quite some time. She has an older daughter who's 13, who's my godchild. And I always call her my child because she has like a lot of my traits. Obviously, she's been around me quite some time. And so my best friend brought her, right? This is the day of, like, this is the day I'm getting news. And she's in the room with me. She comes in the room with me. Her eyes are red. She's already been crying. And she lays on me and she goes, "But you always have me," right? And there's something about community and family in that moment that really, I think, turned the dial, because I could have gone down a rabbit hole. Like, let's be very clear, right? Like, I already from time to time suffer from depression, so that could have been an easy path to just be like, all right, I don't want to do anything. But the support from my family, almost, it just seemed like one of those things where it's so hard to explain it, but I was just like, it was just so, they loved on me so hard, yo. Like, it I can't say this enough, because that is really what brought me through. I do have a friend who did suffer a miscarriage, and I spoke to her, but she didn't know until after I released the promo for the podcast. I hadn't told anybody. I was very selective on the few people that I did share with Instagram on my close friends live. That was intentional, right? And so this is the first time that this will reach a bigger audience. But I was intentional about that, because during the miscarriage or during the pregnancy, I had learned some things about friends that I thought were going to be like in the corner, you know what I mean? And I'm pretty sure it wasn't intentional, but nonetheless, it happened. And so there was a lot that I learned almost instantly, like, okay, so I can't share my happiness with you, right? Because now I don't know what you're gonna do with that. And now that this situation has happened, I don't know how I can really trust you. So I've had people reach out to me, like, as soon as I dropped the promo, people were like, "Oh my god!" And then there were some people who don't read or don't hit, don't listen all the way through. So all I'm hearing with is like, congratulations. I'm like, you nakers just don't read, like what. But at the same time, I'm so grateful that I'm in a space where I can be like, thank you, or I can just say like, it didn't work out that way, right? Because there are a lot of people who were excited for me. They know how much I want to be a mom, and so that part is it shows growth, right? Because like I could have had a breakdown, or I could have just like been angry, respond like you muff, you know what I'm saying? But I was just like, yo, thanks, or hopefully they read the rest of it or they listen to the rest of it and they're like, oh damn, okay. But I am gonna put a disclaimer on the next snippet that I do Friday, because just so people are clear, because like I said in the promo, right? Yes, it's slightly misleading, but you have to be pregnant in order to have a miscarriage. So like we don't want it to be 30 something black and miscarrying. Like that's
Right.
tacky as hell. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? So
Right.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I even had trouble with how I was going to respond to you, when I saw the promo,
Mm-hmm.
because, I see a big, this big announcement and you got that big smile on your face. And I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
okay, what you should, I did it. I did it. What Issa got going on? And, let me check it out. And then, it's, naturally it's going to be deflating because you
Mm-hmm.
heard that something happened to your friend. And, and you worry about them, you hurt. So,
Right.
you know, I wrote you the message and, we said to each other, but I struggled with that. Like, what do I say to her? Like, but then, one thing I've learned over the years is that you have to trust where people are. You don't need to, be, I'm not gonna say be sad for them or hurt for, like, if you're
Right.
at the place where you're ready to talk about this on the level where you want to make a podcast about it or announce it to friends, I have to trust what you are where you are. You know what I mean?
Right.
Um, and I imagine it took a lot of hard work to get there. Well, let me ask you, how long did it take you
I
to
mean,
get
for
there?
some people, they would. So today is what, like the 18th, right? So technically, I literally had a miscarriage like 30 days ago. Um, and I got pushed back because I hit some of my friends and I was like, yo, this is what I want to do, and this must have been maybe like at least like I'm gonna say like so. Damn, I want to say it happened pretty fast. And it probably happened a lot faster than I realized. I always say when God gives you a dream, yo, or he gives you like a thought and you can't like let go of that thought, it's probably something you should do. And so once I had gotten to a place, probably like I guess maybe like 3 weeks after, because I didn't go back to work immediately. So I want to say it's probably that week where I wasn't working that I just kind of thought to myself, like, I could be sharing this, like, um, how do I feel about that? And I reached out to a few friends who were like, well, you gotta tell the whole story. You ready for that? And people gonna judge you. People been judging, right? People ain't never gonna stop judging. Um, that's not the point of the podcast, right? If people know me personally, they can always reach out to me and ask me questions, right? And people who don't know me can ask me questions. But I'm gonna be as transparent as I'm comfortable with for the most part. I don't have a problem sharing the story. Um, but people cope differently. So like even though I am okay, I still have my moments, right? I stayed at my mom's house quite long because coming home to an empty house was going to be really hard. I had friends who had already sent me small gifts. I had to put all those away, right? I had to close the door to the third bedroom for a little while because that was supposed to be a nursery. So there are things that I still do day to day that kind of like just a little bit of a sting, but for the most part, I'm grateful that I can go to a virtual baby shower or ask my god sister, like, hey, what do you need for the baby type of thing. Um, but again, all of that is due to my family and my friends. Like it wouldn't have been possible for me to be where I am um right now if it wasn't for them, and also for my partner who, like instantly when he found out, he was like, by this time I had drove down to my mom's house, and he ended up coming down there because obviously, I live in Baltimore. And so one of the things that he says to me is he leans over, I'm in bed in pain, right? And he leans in and he goes, "You are beautiful, you are strong, and this is not your fault," right? You can't ask for anything more than that, because that right there is a weight lifted, right? This is not my child, right? This is our child. This is not my situation, it's our situation. And so, that right there, I think like really started the grieving process of being able to cry around him, cry with my godchildren, cry with my mom. Whenever I felt like crying, I would just cry. And there's sometimes right now where I log into work and I don't feel like doing nothing, and sometimes I just don't. If it's something that I can catch up with later, I'll do that because I know that I need this moment. And I think we don't get that opportunity in a lot of things that we go through when it comes to grieving. We don't get the opportunity to have a moment to pause and then like go back to something. So for me, I want to say it probably moved a lot quicker, but you know me, my brain is always going. And so once a thought enters my mind, I'm like, okay. And I literally couldn't sleep. That's how I knew it was something I had to do. I was up at 3 a.m. making that logo, checking out the new podcast app, trying to figure out, all right, can I do this? Writing out episodes. I should be asleep. I got things to do. I'm old, right? I need my rest. But I was just like, all right, let me get this done, because it obviously there's a point to it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And, I learned just from talking to you that I think this is probably part of your healing journey, you know?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, girl. Well,
No.
I'm obviously wishing you the best. I'll be tuned in for sure. And I hope that, both men and women tune in, because I think it's a lot to learn from you, for the Black community. Before I let you
Absolutely.
go, um, tell people where they can check it out when it's launching, and what's the go.
You will be able to find me on Anchor FM, and I will stream over to Apple, and then I will work on putting it on Spotify. But episode 1 and 2 will be up this Friday, and you can follow me on Instagram, Amiyah Deziire, and that is for like sneak peeks. That'll be me posting like little videos or whatever on Fridays at noon. If I'm not late, because I'll be on CP time sometimes.
Yeah, look, she be late. When we was about to, when this thing was starting. Now, for the people at home that don't know, Maya was on the MSR team. You hear me talk about the MSR podcast last time. So we family. We've been
Hmm.
we've been working together for a long time. She's helped me with some of my films and stuff. She's dope. But she jokingly calls me boss man, which I used to hate, because I'm like, it's almost like, yeah, y'all, it's like they were calling me some type of tyrant or something. We're not gonna go there. That's what we talking about. But my girl will be late. Well, actually, you wouldn't be late a lot. That's actually not true. You wouldn't be late. Sometimes you will be late. Sometimes you can be
Sometimes.
stuff late.
Yeah.
But you were always on point. I'm so very proud of where you are now. I think this is a terrific thing you're doing. I know Dr. Michael.
Right.
I know it's a hard wipe, flap my hand around. It's just wet, It's just
That's that rock.
hey,
That rock.
hey,
Heavy. You feel me?
hey. Nah, man. No, but no, seriously, I think this is a dope thing you're doing for the community. I think people are gonna, like I said before, people are gonna really learn from this, and I hope it helps you heal. I really do. I hope it helps you heal, man, because we're all healing. We're all going through
Yeah.
stuff. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Um, and I imagine, I know that wasn't easy for you, but again, I'm so happy you got the strength to be able to share this with the world and do what's best for you, sis. Seriously.
Absolutely. I'm excited and I'm grateful to be launching it with you. Like that's dope.
Yeah,
The universe works in mysterious ways.
it does.
I mean, listen, you got that exclusive. You feel me?
Hey, I like exclusives. You know what I'm saying? I like exclusives, man. So you be good. We will talk soon. I will have you back on for sure. You know what I mean? I always had a plan for. I already had Paul on. Having a plan to get some of the MSR people on every now and then.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? You're a perfect candidate for that. So we will definitely talk soon.
I look forward
Sure.
to it.
All right, girl. Be good.
Yeah.
Big shout outs to Amiyah for coming on the show. Really appreciate her. It takes a lot to be able to share something like that, something that I could never imagine going through. And that's really what I want to get into in this next segment. Before I let you guys go, I just want to say something to the fellas, because I got a lot of fellas that listen to this show. A lot of dudes listen to the show, and that's different from me. Really different, honestly. The MSR podcast, we had a lot of women. Most of our listeners were women. I even had a sports show, Opinionated AF, with my homegirl Danny. A lot of women listen to that show. So this is the first time that I had a mostly male audience, and I like that. This is a lane I like playing in, because I like talking to the fellas. I like keeping it real with y'all, man. And one thing I learned from this interview earlier with Amiyah is there are things, and it seems pretty obvious, and I know some of the women that listen to the show gonna be like, come on, duh, right? But there are things that women go through mentally and physically, especially black women, that we just can never, ever, ever relate to. I know it's tough being a black man. I know being a black man comes with his own set of issues. Trust me, I know. We talk about them on this show. I've talked about them in past projects, but to have the strength of that woman, right, to go through something that is, I'm assuming, is physically painful, mentally draining, and have the strength to say, you know what, I want to tell this story via podcast so I can help other women that have gone through this and other people that have gone through this. Says so much, man. It says so much. You probably heard me say several times. And by the way, I was lost for words throughout most of that interview, because I know her, and I kept saying in the interview how proud I was of her, because that's the only words that I can muster up, really. It's the only words I can muster up. It's the only thing I can think to say to somebody, and sometimes as a man, there's nothing to say. She talks about her partner and how he's comforted her through this, been by her side, because it happened to him too, of course. But again, the woman takes on the burden. The woman takes on the physical burden along with the mental burden. So that man has been stepping up and doing his job. That makes me happy, because not only is this young lady my friend, but this is just a black woman in the world, and it shows me that we have the ability to do it. I like that he's breaking a stereotype that black men don't care. And I also just like it on a personal level, love it on a personal level, that a friend of mine is taken care of and a black woman is being taken care of. We talk about protecting black women. We talk about having, black women's back and things like that. Some of us don't know what to do. Some of us have no idea how to do that. And I think it's because we think we have to do this big grand, have these big grand gestures, right? We have to go and beat up every, F-boy in the street, or, put on a Superman cape and just, be at the rescue of black women all the time. Sometimes, really, at least I think, it's about emotional support. And it's about understanding that being a black woman comes with its own separate bag of issues. And sometimes we get caught up in our own stuff and we don't think about that. And that's why I wanted to have her on, knowing that I have a large male listenership and that I probably would get greater numbers if I just sat here and talked about the NBA draft and LeBron, right? Or sneakers. But I wanted to have her on because I think that the men really needed to hear that. When the moment I saw her post that on Instagram, I thought, wow, I couldn't imagine doing that. I've been podcasting for most of my life. I've been working in radio, film, and now what we call podcasting for most of my life. And I couldn't imagine being that transparent. I couldn't picture it. There's a strength in women that we can't relate to. I'm not saying that to pander right now. I'm really not. I'm not trying to pander. I'm not that guy, man. Okay, I'm not that guy. Again, most women don't even listen to this show. I'm saying it for y'all, for the fellas out there, dudes like me that sometimes struggle. We want to help. We hear, help us, protect us, be there for us. We need more from y'all. And sometimes we think, damn, well, what can we really do? You could be like her partner. You can be like that man. Emotional support. Understanding. Knowing when to talk and when not to talk. Knowing when to let them just let your sister, your homegirl, your lady, your mom, your sister, whoever the woman is that you know that's in your life. Let her speak. Don't speak at her. There's so much we can do and there's so much we can learn. So maybe the lesson is just sit back and listen. Either way, man, I'm looking forward to listening to the pod. I'm looking forward to learning more so I can be more helpful. And again, I'm praying that this journey that she's taken allows her to heal and allows other women that may have gone through this and men that are going through this or know someone that's going through this to heal as well. All right. Thank you all for tuning in. I really appreciate you guys. Turkey Day is coming up, but I will have a show that week. Sorry that I was late with this week's show. A lot of tech issues, but I got brand new stuff. We back in business. The sneaker documentary, What Are Those, is coming out on December 16th. December 16th. I did put something out on social to announce it. I've been invited to go on a couple of podcasts and promote the film. And I also need to fix just a few tech issues. You know what I mean? Trust me, I'm not trying to make it perfect. I just want it to be right. It is coming out on December 16th, right on time for Christmas. You can check it out for free on YouTube and Facebook video. I hope you all enjoy it. I hope you all enjoyed this show. Follow Amiyah. Check out the podcast when it comes out. Please stick with this podcast for my YouTubers. Guys, remember, subscribe to the podcast. Click the bell. Rate and review the show. Comment on the show. Share the show. And until next time, ladies and gentlemen, remember, keep your mentals up, right? Mind your mentals. Marshawn said it best. Okay? Mind your mentals. Mind your chickens. That means that cash. That means your mindset. Keep it all together until next time, ladies and gentlemen. Continue to be great. I am up out of here.